So-yoon stands on the edge of the bridge on a rainy day contemplating if he can really end his own life. But just before he is about to let go of the railing, he is grabbed by someone. So-yoon, who is studying the room alone, is told that time to leave has arrived by someone just outside the view. He keeps talking to that person about someone as they walk out and enters the restroom stall. In the restroom stall, he seems to talk to himself about beating someone while changing clothes and applies gel to his head, turning into someone else who smirks, ready to start his plans. In a cafe, a group seems to be discussing as one friend tries to tell his friend that he was being targeted and shows a post on his phone, but his friend doesn't believe, calling it a ridiculous rumor. He asks who the person was, but the friend doesn't have any idea, and tells the person to call himself Wolf, and he targets high school gang members every week, posting proof of beat up afterward. Another friend tries to show a previous target, but he laughs off, telling it was someone else, and gets irritated when he hears loud laughter from behind. He sees So-yoon and two girls talking to eat. Seeing a boy messing up two girls, he stands up to go to the bathroom. He meets So-yoon in the bathroom, humming, and begins glaring at him. So-yoon tells one of the girls had taken an interest in him, and as if he was up for it. So-yoon calls him to the parking lot outside to meet her, saying he was trying to hit on another girl, but she kept annoying him. He tells if he can hit it off with her, So-yoon could focus on the other girl, and tells him to be there in 30 minutes. In the parking lot, the guy waits and just find out that So-yoon is there, until he has warned him in social media to no be alone and introduces himself as W. Finding out that he was Wolf, he rushes in with a kick, which is easily blocked and countered with a punch to the stomach by Wolf. He then grabs his head and knees him to the face. Wolf thinks he's already knocked out, but he grabs his leg, pulls him to the ground, jumping on him, and grabs his collar, ready to throw a punch. Wolf strikes his joints, making him lose balance, and smacks his face, then headbutts, and creates some distance with a kick to the chest. Taking his opportunity, Wolf kicks him in the face, and finally knocks him out. He takes his photo for posting. He grabs his head in pain and walks off, thinking the nerd would like the wound in the head. The next morning, he grabs his head and complains to Wolf about getting hurt. He checks the mirror to find a wound in the forehead, and thinks that people will get suspicious now. In class, he sits alone, as everyone around is chattering about the post, when Woo-sik grabs and tells him he didn't have breakfast and asks So-yoon knew what he likes, hinting him to go grab it. He is reluctant to go as class was starting soon, but stands up to go as soon as work starts threatening him. Work insults him to others as he runs to grab the food. As he is running back, Wolf calls to him and asks if Woo-sik should be the next target. He is up for it, as there was a chance he would get recognized if they were in the same class. But Wolf tries to convince him with no success. Woo-sik tells he could easily beat Wolf, and a friend suggests commenting to ask for a fight, which he says yes to, saying Wolf would be too scared to fight him. So-yoon glances at him as Wolf asks again if he can be the next target. In an alley, he is beating a person when someone tells him he begs him to stop. But he just keeps beating him. Surrounding people tell him to stop as he might kill the guy, but Wolf is angry and asks who said that, but hearing no answer, he tells no one can stop him, and he would kill anyone who pushes him around and walks off. In the distance, two people are mumbling to each other. The guy in Ryeon asks if he should play around with him, but Cap Guy tells him to let him be, as he would get done in without them doing anything. After a distance, he begins talking to himself again, asking him to make Woo-sik the next target. He tells unless they crush work they would have to live like that forever, and tells him to get over it. Finally, he agrees to it, and Wolf is happy, finally getting the confirmation to make Woo-sik the next target, and tells him how they would be going to get through life, otherwise they would have no reason to live. In a warehouse, people are surrounding two figures cheering on. While both look tired, red hair guy doesn't look hurt, and the fat guy's face is swollen. He is easily dodging the fat guy's punches and striking the face. The Ryeon and that guy are looking at the fight bored, when the red jacket sees the notification showing Woosik as the next target and starts chuckling, and the hat guy who is watching the match notices the end of the match before the last blow was even exchanged. Rian shows the new target of Wolf when hat guy is confused why he is even interested in him, as he was just a normal high schooler. But Rian just tells it wasn't a special reason and it just him, never seeing anyone as crazy as him, and he wants to check something. The next day, in class, Work, who is messing around with his friend, punches him seriously, saying it didn't feel like good practice otherwise, and remembers Soyun and calls him to act as a punching bag. When his other friend runs in telling him he was the next target of Wolf, Woosik is angry as he sees the post and talks with his friends and tries to play it off, saying it was good as he can beat him. Semi shouts at them, telling them they are allowed, and tell Woosik to be quiet and tell him she knows he is scared he will lose to Wolf, which Woosik denies. So she tells him to find Wolf instead of cowering in school, as he must be waiting outside for him, as walks off. Work is enraged hearing that and thinks she was being bold because of her boyfriend, and goes out of class with the bag, saying he isn't scared at all with his friends following. Soyun notices scribble on Semi's notes as he sits down, and Wolf in his head tells him to follow Woosik as this was the perfect chance. Soyun is reluctant, but Wolf tells him that if he wasn't here, Soyun would have been dead, so he had to follow what he said and crush Work tonight. Soyun goes to the bathroom to change, but meets Semi at the door, who asks for him to teach her math, which surprises Soyun, that angers her. He tries to calm her, but she walks off enraged, telling him to forget it. As he is looking at the Semi-go, Wolf tells him to cut the bullshit and leave it up to him, telling him to put an end to this tonight. Woosik is looking around as he walks out in the street when he hears someone saying they found him. He turns around, asking who it was, to see two guys who seem to have met up and talking to each other, and leaks a sign of relief, and begin threatening the guys in anger. Rian, who just exited the cafe, sees Woosik and notices he was the guy from the post. Work shoves the guy and tells them to go away and starts waking again, and Rian notices Wolf following him and dashes as well, finding it interesting, asking himself if he had time to get popcorn. Inside the head, Soyun warns that he was too close, and he would get caught, but Wolf says it does matter as he will kill him today. Wolf speeds up but stops hearing Soyun's warning, but decides to do it anyway, and kicks him into the table, which surprises the Rian. Woosik tries to turn his head, but gets kicked in his face. Wolf starts stomping his head, and he notices his crawling away, asking for help. He tries to kick him again, but misses and loses balance, falling on the ground. Wolf climbs on Woosik's back, grabs his head, and starts punching it. Few bystanders start recording it on their phones as Soyun tells Wolf to cover his face. Wolf, in an enraged state, didn't listen and grabs a nearby chair and strikes down Woosik. He looks around as Soyun tells him to stop, but he grabs a close by the board to smash on Woosik. But Rian kicks it away. Wolf turns to Rian, who tells seeing him attack from behind and attacking even after the guy was passed out, got on his nerve, asking if was trying to kill him. Wolf, in anger, says he will kill Woosik and him as well if he tries to stop him. Rian, in a bad mood, tells he wasn't a fighter, just crazy, and walks of turns telling him to do whatever he wanted, and telling a bystander to stop recording and actually call the police as the guy might just die. Wolf tries to punch from the back, but Rian notices and easily dodges and counters with a gut punch, followed by a punch to the side. But stop just before his uppercut hits the chin, telling him to be more careful when choosing his opponent, and he would let him go next time. He tell what he was doing wasn't a game, and there are real games he didn't know about, and turns to walk away. Wolf just screams at him to stop, as he barely gets up on his feet, but falls still glaring at him. Soyun goes to school while still in pain from yesterday's encounter. He sits alone, as usual, hearing others talk about the video, but is surprised when he hears someone say it worked. He searches for the video and finds the video of him beating Woosik, though it was of low quality. Hearing other talk, he found that the video was in the news as well, and police were looking into it. He mumbles to himself that no one was going to think it was him, and he is going to be okay as the video was of bad quality, but keeps panicking. The teacher announced that Woosik was hospitalized and asked if anyone knew the perpetrator. In a restroom, he begins to vomit due to stress, when Wolf appears calling it gross. So-yoon complains it was his fault. Police were looking for him, but Wolf snaps back saying they were the same person. So-yoon tells the reason he appeared is done, and he isn't needed anymore, but Wolf interrupts with a laugh, saying he was the reason he made. His fear of death and want to live had created Wolf, and asks if he had done enough and wasn't needed anymore. If that was true, why was he still here? He comes to face and tells unless So-yoon himself changes, Wolf wouldn't disappear. He pulls up his shirt to show bruises and tells him he needed to find the guy who did that to him. So-yoon keeps telling him he doesn't want to fight while trembling, but the one who walks out of the restroom is Wolf, who denies saying he does, and he was the proof of that. The next day he woke up with more bruises. His inner self Manhwa didn't want to stop fighting and was getting more violent. So-yoon had full control of himself for 6 hours a day, and Manhwa woke up 2 hours before he could fully take control of him. He shared his conscience with Manhwa when he is in control, but all he could do was watch as he grew more uncontrollable as time passes. He looks at the mirror, thinking about what he does, but changes with a blink of his eyes, saying he should find Ryan. Manhwa looks around, trying to find Ryan, and notices him with the hat guy in a calf. He immediately runs to the calf but couldn't see him when he hears a slam of a door. He goes through the door and searches for them and exits to the back of the calf. He looks around, calling him out of hiding. Ryan calls him from behind, asks if he was looking for him. Manhwa immediately dashes at him, saying he was searching for him for a week, but gets kicked in the guts. He asks why he was looking for him and warns him again as he turns around. Manhwa rises, saying it would be faster to just kill him. Ryan kicks him on the thigh, making him knee, and takes that chance to kick him in the head, but is surprised when he doesn't even flinch at the oncoming kick, so he retracts his kick. Hat guy asks, as if this was the guy who had disappointed him, and tells him to finish it fast, or he could do it himself. The Ryan tells Kevin to wait till he regains his interest in him. Ryan takes stance, telling him he will fight Manhwa. So-yoon inside warns he can't win, as he was a real fighter unlike people before. Manhwa asks what he should do then while refusing to be a coward like him. Jump to punch him, but gets deflected and hit in the face. He staggers but doesn't back down and goes in again while So-yoon keeps telling him to stop. And he can't win. Ryan handles him easily and drops him on his knees again. As Ryan looks down on him, Manhwa tells So-yoon to use his brain and find a way he wouldn't stop until the body gets destroyed while keeping up the fight and getting beat. So-yoon tells him to take a boxer stance or to get ready for a fast attack. He asks what he wanted him to do while still glaring at Ryan while getting ready. Ryan asks if he still wanted to fight and if he wasn't scared of anything. So-yoon tells him to get close to him and grab him, which confuses him. He tells that he was a striker type, looking at the light steps, and they are weak at infighting. Manhwa jumps to grab him, but is easily dodged. The grabs him by the head and knees him, but without missing a beat. He grabs him listening to So-yoon's instruction. Ryan is surprised and starts punching his side, screaming at him to let go. Manhwa asks what he needs to do now, which confuses Ryan, asks who he was talking to. So-yoon tells him he didn't know. And Manhwa tells him to think of something but passes out after a chop to the neck from Kevin. Kevin asked what he was doing with the amateur, and Ryan says Manhwa was an interesting guy looking down on him, as he woke up and glared at him and tries to threaten him, but Ryan sits on his back and tells he will acknowledge that he takes hits, but he needs to know his opponent as well. Ryeon tells that if he wanted a fight, he could come to Hardstone next to Sung-sil Park, and leaves with Kevin as Manhwa keeps glaring at him as he leaves, while stomping his hand. The next morning in class, he tries to think about what he needs to do, as he didn't want to get into fights or get beaten up. The teacher notices Soyun's head down and asks if he needed to leave. But Soyun refuses at first, but after some thought accepts it and leaves. Knowing Minwon will find Ryeon after he wakes up, he went to search for him first. After finding the place he enters to finds both Kevin and Ryeon, who look back at him confused. Ryeon asks why he was visiting the club, and Soyun replies that he was the one who called him and removes his mask. He grabs his hair, asking who did it, but recognizes Soyun as Wolf, and he agrees that he was the wolf. He tells them about his condition, and Ryeon is a bit surprised how his personality changed, but believes it as he had met Minhwan himself. Kevin suggests going to the hospital, but Soyeon immediately rejects it, saying he didn't want others to find out about Minhwan as he was already loser and danger of the people Minhwan attack will target him, especially with police looking into the video sharing. Ryeon asks why he came to him. Soyun knew that Ryeon wasn't like an immature gang member and knew how to fight. He knew Minhwan would keep attacking him unless he win, but also knew his body would be able to handle the daily beating, so he asks if he could avoid the fight or suppress him without hurting him. Ryeon rejects it, saying he never avoided a fight and had no intention of doing so, but he also understands that if he didn't fight him, Minhwan would attack anyone in the streets, so he will just keep beating him until he gives up, and if he didn't like it, he would have to win against him. Ryeon sends Soyun away, saying he would be in the club for some time, and tell him to visit on Wednesday when they close the club. He goes to the park where he begins to talk with Minhwan, who had woken up. Minhwan keeps complaining, but Soyun outright tells him he couldn't win against Ryeon. Minhwan tell him he didn't care, and he would just stab him with a knife, and Soyun tell him that was why he went. To talk to him, they would become criminal. Minhwan screams what he should do as he was the one who created him. But Soyun tells him that he will help, which surprises Minhwan. He tells him he will look for a way to win by studying fighting skills, while Minhwan could train his body. Minhwan is stunned, but laughs, saying that was what he wanted, as they both had their strength, and they could become stronger if they worked together. Losing complete control of he needed to get strong to protect himself. Minhwan looks at a video of a professional match, tells it didn't look as cool as it sounded, unlike normal people who instinctively step back when faced with a punch or kick. Minhwan jumps right in. But the only problem they had is stamina, so Ryeon would try to keep distance, and to prevent that, they needed muscular strength and have a close fight while holding on to each other, and to endure the fight they needed stamina. Soyun goes through various martial art books, while Minhwan trains his body during his time, not caring for any muscle pain that might result the next day. Kevin asks if Minhwan would really come, but Ryeon thinks he will. Ryeon asks if he will be there, but as he had a scheduled fight, he wouldn't be. Reminded of that, he asks if Kevin knew who the opponent was, but he tells the opponent was a first-timer in Pounding Club, which surprised even Ryeon, but Kevin said the manager must have done for a reason, ending the conversation. Soyun takes off his shirt, turning into Minhwan in the process, and checks his body and smiles as he could finally fight Ryeon. Minhwan enters the club, ready to start the fight, and calls out to Ryeon. Ryeon taunts him, and then tells him to start, as he didn't have much time. Both of them take stance, ready to attack. Ryeon taunts him to attack, but Soyun warns him to not get worked up and to focus on the blows, and Minhwan tells him to stop nagging. Hearing Minhwan, Ryeon understands that Minhwan and Soyun were working together and smack both his arms away, opening his head for a hit. He tries to go for the punch, but Minhwan jumps forward, hearing Soon's signal but missing. When Ryeon jumps back, Ryeon taunts his failed attempt, and Minhwan gets back to stance hearing. Soyun, understanding that Minhwan was waiting for him to attack, So starts taping swishing around. He steps to side punches, which still taunting him. Soyun tells Minwon to wait for the moment. Ryan dashes forward and throws a punch and Soyun signals him, but he gets punched in the face. He then kicks him on the leg, but is disappointed seeing him calm and asks if Soyun was commanding him. He tells him to fight like as he did and tells him to come at him while throwing a punch. Soyun signals him again. Minwon dash forward and grabs while trying to elbow as well, which is stopped by Ryan. Manhwa tries to punch him up close, but missed both times. Ryan uses that chance to elbow him on the head with his free arm. Minwon endures the hit and headbutts him, which does have an effect. Ryan turns his grabbed hand and grabs the hood, and used a free hand to grab his neck and pulls him down for a knee to the face, which stunned him. Using this chance, he kicks Minhwa on the head, which knocks him out. Looking at him stagger, Ryan grabs his head in a panic to not get any injuries from the fall. He tries to wake him up, but gives up when he suddenly feels pain in his chest and wonders if he pushed himself too much. Seeing Wolf wakes up, asks how many fingers he is showing, and recognizes it was Soyun by the way he answered, who informed Minhwa was sleeping. Ryan tells him to go home, but Soyun asks what he should do now. Ryan is not interested and just tells him to go home and leaves himself. Soyun, not sure, follows Rishan and gets into the car as Ryan hurries to see Kevin's match. Ryan is confused why he got into the car, but healing Soyun scared takes him to the place. On the ride there, Ryan asks if using dirty boxing was his idea and Soyun agrees he chose that due to Minhwa trait of not getting scared of his opponent. Ryan tells it was a good idea, but normal. People had a harder time aiming up close, and he might have won if he knew how to punch at that distance. Late Ryan runs into the club while telling the passcode and Soyun follows. He pushes forward and Soyun is left behind the crowd. He looks around surprised about the existence of such a rowdy place. His heart races fast. Then Minhwa awakens and says that he loves the place. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.